She said it like an order, not a suggestion. You'll be sleeping in the guest room until you apologize. I looked at her, my wife, my boss, the woman who built her empire on control, and simply said, all right. No arguing. No defending myself. No begging for understanding. Just all right. The silence that followed didn't mean surrender. It was ignition. We used to be equals once, partners not only in marriage but in ambition. When we first met, I owned a small consulting firm. She was the bright, rising star of her corporation. I was the one who taught her how to read people, how to shape perception, how to win battles without drawing blood. She used to tell me I had a strategist's mind. You see 10 steps ahead, she'd whisper after closing a deal. But somewhere along the way, she stopped whispering and started commanding. She turned into a storm, and I became the shelter she no longer needed. It didn't happen overnight. It was erosion, tiny humiliations masked as jokes, dismissals brushed off as stress. Then, one evening at a dinner with her board, she introduced me as her house consultant. The room burst into laughter. I laughed too, but inside something cracked. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't begin with knives. It begins with laughter. The real betrayal came later. I didn't find it by snooping through her phone. I'm not that kind of man. I found it on her laptop, the one she left open after a board meeting. Her emails. Not just business talk. Not just strategy. Words. Intimate. Familiar. I'll talk to him tonight, she'd written. Once he signs the papers, we'll be free to move forward. Papers. Not divorce papers. Share transfer agreements. My shares. The same ones she'd convinced me were temporary. She was preparing to erase me. From the company I helped her build. From the life I built around her. I stared at those messages for a long time. My first feeling wasn't heartbreak. It was calculation. That night, I went to the guest room, just as she'd commanded. She thought she'd won a small victory. She didn't realize she'd declared war. I started small, quiet, and methodical. First, I copied everything: emails, transactions, hidden accounts. Then I reached out to her former assistant, the one she fired for incompetence. Turns out, the girl had a photographic memory and a grudge. A perfect combination. While my wife played her role as corporate empress, I became the patient ghost, moving unseen through her empire. She forgot that silence had always been my sharpest weapon. I called my lawyer, a man who owed me more than a few favors. Together, we drafted divorce papers. Not ordinary ones. Every clause, every transfer, every line was a legal labyrinth. A trap that would force her to confess simply by trying to escape it. Then I quietly withdrew my shares from our joint trust. She didn't notice. Her focus was expansion, not detail. I left a digital trail pointing straight to her CFO. By the time she realized something was wrong, it would already be too late, and very, very public. The night before I left, she stood in the doorway of the guest room, arms folded. "Are you done sulking?" she asked. I looked at her, really looked at her. The sharp suit, the cold calculation in her eyes, the arrogance that once drew me in. "I'm done," I said. She smirked. "Good. Come back to bed tomorrow, after you apologize." I nodded once. "All right." But tomorrow never came. When she woke the next morning, I was gone. The closet half empty. My side of the bed cold. The divorce papers sat neatly on the desk beside her favorite mug. I imagined she stood there reading. Confusion twisting into disbelief. Disbelief into rage. The CEO in her would search for loopholes. The woman in her would search for answers. She'd find neither. Attached to those papers were copies of her emails, her secret accounts, her plans to defraud shareholders. Evidence powerful enough to bury her career. By noon, her CFO's name was trending. Leaked documents. Insider trading. Whispers of an affair. Her empire began to crumble. Not with a bang, but with surgical precision. Exactly as I intended. I never needed to confront her. I didn't have to raise my voice. I simply let her world collapse under its own weight. That evening, she called me. 23 missed calls before I finally answered. "What did you do?" she whispered. Her voice wasn't sharp anymore. It was fragile, broken. "What you taught me," I said. "I learned from the best." There was silence. Just shallow, uneven breathing. Then she said, "You ruined everything." "No," I replied. "You did. I just stopped cleaning up after you." And I hung up. That was the last time we spoke. A week later, I watched her press conference from a hotel room 2 cities away. She wore black and spoke about betrayal and mismanagement. Even as her company burned, she couldn't take responsibility. That's the difference between us. She thought control was power. I knew control was patience. Sometimes late at night, I still think about her. How she used to look at me when she believed we were unstoppable. There's no joy in revenge, not the kind that leaves ashes behind. But there is clarity. I didn't destroy her for leaving me. I destroyed her because she forgot who helped her rise, and thought she could relegate me to the guest room of my own life. Now she sleeps in the ruins she built. And I finally sleep just fine.